First order of business is the September 14th, 2023 Board of Trustee meeting minutes. Motion to approve. Thank you, Jim. Second. Jim, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? There are no minutes. Oh, wait a minute. It was canceled, so there's no minutes to approve. All right, moving on to 3.0 preferred agenda action items. There are no preferred agenda action items. Moving on to 4.0. 4.1, recommend approval of payroll certification.
Second.
Where did she go? Can you hear everyone? Yeah, Anthony was first, Jim was second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.2, recommend approval of SUNY Transformation Fund fiscal year 23-24 for campus allocation. Thank you, Barbara. Second, Alejandro. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.3, recommend approval of unified campus portal renewal.
Move it.
Thank you, Jim. Second,
Second.
the other Jim. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 4.4, recommend approval of write-offs of student account receivables.
So moved.
Barbara moved it,
Second.
Jason second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.5, recommend approval of the 2023-2024 SUNY child care appropriation. Thank you, Anthony. Moved it. Second, Jim Morgan. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? 4.6, recommend approval of renewal subscription service agreement with Civitas Student Impact Platform. Motion? Barbara moved it. Second. Jim Pisani. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.7, recommend approval of a release of retainage to JB Installations for their work on the Student Center and Decker roofing project. Motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. Second. Alejandro seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? 4.8, recommend approval of new job description, social media and events assistant. Motion?
Move.
Thank you, Jim Morgan. Second.
Second.
Second, Jim Pistani. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.9, recommend approval of change orders for the ongoing Old Science and Student Services restroom renovation contract. Motion? Barbara moved it. Second.
Second.
Tina, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.10, recommend approval of FERPA policy.
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. Is there a second? Anthony, second. Any discussion?
I have a question. So I was under the idea that we already followed FERPA policy. So is this kind of, how does this work?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Dr. Kelly to take the lead of the group.
We do follow it, but we had a policy. So we do our own policy and we say we follow the SUNY SEP policy. So it was outdated. So we're just updating it to the newest version.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thank you for the question. All in favor, aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? 4.11, recommend approval of X-ray equipment service agreement. Motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. Second, Jim Morgan. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone object or abstain? All right. We have the longest titles of regulations of anyone I think I've ever seen.
Kathy, I'm sorry, could you tell me who first and seconded the FERPA, please?
I did, I think.
Jason, and the second was Tina, wasn't it?
Oh,
I think the seconded. No?
no, I probably did. I can't remember if it was 4.9 or 4.10 now that I said it.
I thought it was 10 and
It's okay, because 11 was the one we just added
yeah,
at the end, so yes.
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, moving on to 5.0, Dr. Hawkins.
Great. Let me begin by expressing a little bit of gratitude to Danielle Berchol, who has assumed responsibility for pulling all of the board materials together in Diana Lenzo's absence. So I want to thank you for just wonderful work of herding us all together and getting the materials out so thoughtfully and completely. So thank you. Secondly,
Enthusiastically, she's very enthusiastic about it as well.
secondly, I have a card here for Diana. So before you leave, you can make certain that you sign the speedy recovery card for Diana. Just a couple of the highlights to the report that's included in your packet. I'm happy to report that at this point, as of Monday, our enrollment is up. It's up 97 students, which is exciting. It's in the right direction. That's up 1.81% over last year this time, and up 31.47 FTE, which is up once again 1.88% over our enrollment last year this time. Last week, I had the pleasure of accompanying two of our trustees to the 2023 ACCT Leadership Conference. It was a wonderful opportunity for me to connect with Alejandro and Trustee Coffey to really enjoy just my new position as president, some time to get to know my bosses, two of my bosses, and to participate in several pre-conference symposium, as well as several wonderful sessions that were conducted on topics such as closing the achievement gap, topics such as fast-tracked ways that we can get students to have access to higher education in 16 weeks or less, where they will take classes and earn degrees, not degrees, but credentials within 16 weeks. One of the pre-conference sessions that I attended was called Leveling Up. And it was an all-day long symposium on realizing the Black learner excellence at community colleges, because the latest evidence shows that Black learners in particular have yet to really return to higher education at the numbers where they were pre-pandemic. But even more so, there's been a decline in the number of Black learners that have participated over the last 10 years. So this was the first meeting of a cohort of institutions that are studying causes and strategies and initiatives and interventions for increasing not only Black males, Black females in the higher education pipeline. The Presidential Transition Committee has 2 additional open forums remaining next Thursday, next Friday. We've had 5 official transition committee open forums, primarily for employees and faculty staff. We've had 1 with our alumni and donors. Thank you, Kathy Williams. So 1 external group, and then next week we have a virtual open forum, and Friday is our community and business roundtable and town hall. Included in your packet are some themes that have been generated so far. And I want to thank Sandy Gibble, Maureen Henkin, Karen Moyer, Robin Capello, Carol Ross, and Kathy Williams for facilitating the discussion so far. We will have a meeting, I believe it's tentatively scheduled for November the 7th. And it's at that point that the Presidential Transition Committee will gather, will synthesize all of the contents from my meetings, and hopefully begin the process of getting recommendations for the transition period. I'm looking at Trustee Andrews, and I'm also reminded that I did share the open forum questions during my visit with the superintendents. Very insightful, lots of great information was shared at that meeting. So thank you for the invitation and the opportunity.
Thank you.
This is not part of the packet, but I did want to bring to the board's attention that on October the 11th, I issued a statement on the Middle East conflict and the impact on our college community. Once again, acknowledging that the college is a diverse community made up of members who are here for the common purpose of advancing their academic and occupational careers, and that we're committed to maintaining a safe and inclusive learning environment where all students can learn and feel comfortable. It also allowed us an opportunity to once again reaffirm our support of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I just finished a meeting with our civic engagement board, and next week we are planning on doing a card writing campaign, inviting students and members of the community to write cards, to have conversation, to really allow some of our students who are struggling with concentrating with everything that's going on. And we plan on sending those cards to the local synagogues as well as the Islamic centers so that we can express our support for peace in the region and allow folks to really have open conversations, kind of what does this mean, and allow those students that are struggling to really have an opportunity to feel supported and wrapped in warmth of the institution. So going back to my report, I just wanted to announce that we've selected a date for the board retreat. The board retreat will be on December the 15th. Dr. Charlene Dukes, who is the former president of Prince George's Community College and the interim president of Montgomery College, will serve as our facilitators for the retreat that begins at 10:30 and will go until 3 o'clock. You will receive communication from my office to try to establish a 30-minute bit of time where our facilitator will be able to interact and engage with all of our trustees, get to know a little bit more about you and the goals and objectives so that she can create the perfect schedule to meet directly the needs of our trustees when we meet at that meeting. Otherwise, there are other events that occurred since the last meeting that are listed and several upcoming events that are happening that are on the schedule. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Hawkins? Great report. Thank you.
Thank you.
We won't ask any more about Las Vegas.
You know, I was going to give Trustee Shavera Gonzalez an opportunity to give us highlights as
All right.
well. We'll do a broader, more expansive summary when Trustee Coffey is back.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, 5.2, College Senate, Erin, there you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marilyn, Staff Associate for Student Retention and Chair of College Senate. So I am back. So College Senate is meeting on a monthly basis. We've only had 2 meetings this semester so far. We do have a full membership, so we have voting membership in place, and we have drafted our bylaws. So over the summer, we had a transition work group draft the bylaws, and it was really taking a look at the previous college assembly bylaws and then just changing them to edits to those. So those were kind of already drafted, and then since then we've sent them out to the body and campus wide. We've done like a public comment session as well as electronic commenting as well. And so the plan hopefully is to vote on those bylaws at our meeting on October 30th, so we can officially have everything set for College Senate. So that's regards to just getting everything still in place for the new body. So far, just in general information that's been shared has been, you know, Dr. Hawkins talked about the discontinuation of BAP and the budget impact. Thanks to Michael Sullivan for that report. We talked College Senate Chair for myself, and then the Faculty Senate Chair, Dr. Haggerty, will be meeting, I think on a monthly or so basis with Dr. Kelly and Dr. Hawkins, just so that we can, you know, keep up with communication because our meetings are a little bit more spread out. And then nominations just recently went out for announcements for the Professional and Classified Service Chancellor's Awards. So we're hoping to get more nominations in for that. And that concludes the report. Any questions?
Any questions? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Student Affairs, Dr. Carol Ross.
Hi, good evening. Well, needless to say, you have my report, but a couple of highlights for the division. The rebirth of the BC Center. Some of you know that our new director will be starting November the 6th. We're very excited. We poached Nicole McMillan from the JCC. We look forward to having her here. Lisa Straley has been leading the department like a champ. She has been great. We're fully staffed with teachers. That's good news. And 2 of our teachers are taking early childhood education classes, which is even greater news for us. Marcom is going to help us celebrate 30 years on campus. There'll be a birthday party next week. In addition, the center will be hosting an open house later in the month to bring the community to the center. In addition, we are cultivating service in the little babies, and the older ones, the 4 and 5-year-olds, will be collecting items for the dog shelter. In addition, no, it's poinsettia fundraiser time. So when you see that notice, please buy some poinsettias. It's about that time. But I'm very excited with regards to where the direction that the Child Care Center is moving, and the task force is still meeting, and we're headed in a really good direction. Our athletics program, needless to say, is in full swing. Our fall sports fielded 55 student athletes that are participating in volleyball, soccer, and cross country. 20 and in preparation for basketball season, 27 men are currently trying out for the varsity team, and actually 40 men are trying out for the JV team. So we will field 2 basketball teams, and we have 12 women who are interested in the women's team. We have quite a few new coaches. They're all listed in the report. I think what is a good thing that is going to help not only our student athletic program, but also college enrollment. We've hired a part-time sports information director, which we believe will give us greater visibility with regards to our program, and he'll be working in concert with Marcom. We'll get the social media out, the website updated. So we will be out and in the news. Hopefully we'll have more newsworthy stories than VU. We're finalizing the hiring of our athletic trainer, full-time position, which will be very good for our student athletes, because not only do we want them in class, but we want them healthy when they're playing their sports. And having somebody full-time gives our student athletes much more support than having somebody per diem. So that for us is very important. And in addition, we are in the process of hiring an intervention academic coach for the student athletes, because we want to make sure that they're going to class and they're in a study hall and they're focusing on their academics. And that's all under Colleen's leadership. So we are really trying to move the athletic program forward. Our women's volleyball and soccer teams are headed into postseason. And needless to say, as usual, our cross-country student athletes are doing very, very well. Asia Jackson during this season was also named Region 3 Athlete of the Week. So that's pretty good. In the report, you'll also see that EOP had a very successful summer bridge program. They had 30 students in the program. They have 65 students this fall, and they're preparing for a winter bridge. SUNY expects all of the EOP programs that didn't exactly meet their fall enrollment goal to have a summer bridge program. So we're in the process, Vanessa's in the process of pulling together the winter bridge program. We have 235 residents that, needless to say, keep the housing team very, very busy. But 235 students are in. Michael Sullivan will probably tell you about the meeting we had yesterday.
Sure.
Okay, that's great. Sorry about that. The Dean of Students Office has been incredibly busy. I don't know if you all have met Dr. Scott Kane, who is our interim Dean of Students, AVP, who joined us from the registry. Right now, they're at Mom's House with Lori because Mom's House was having a fundraiser gala this evening. So Dean Kane is there with Lori Brewer, who works with our single parents. But he has been incredibly busy. Our counselors have also put in September alone, over 100 sessions. 25 students have gone before the Student of Concern Committee, and we've had over 50 emergency aid requests. So the student development part or our student needs are pretty great this semester, but we're trying to stay ahead of it. Our health services department spent the first part of the year chasing down students for immunizations because we need to make sure that our students are immunized. It was a big challenge, but we got through it, and we probably have only 4 students on the list who we could not catch up to, which is great because we started out with about 400. And finally, needless to say, the student activities group has been busy bringing the campus back to life with lawn games, a trip to Hershey Park, as well as the state fair. But I'm really happy to note that we have reactivated the Muslim Student Association, the Black Student Association, the Unity and Pride Student Organization, and Brothers and Sisters in Christ, which are pretty culturally diverse student organizations. And finally, in partnership with Academic Affairs and Marcom and the student leaders, a committee was formed to intentionally and strategically create opportunities where we can share who we are as individuals and come together as a community. And the theme that we use this year is "This is who I am." Currently, Marcom is collecting video vignettes of some of the members of the community so they can share this is who we are as individuals. In November, we'll be hosting a lunch and learn about the complexities of identity and student success. It will focus on the LGBTQ plus community. And also on that day, if you mark your calendars to come out on November the 15th, we're also going to try to bring the community together in a faculty, staff versus student volleyball game. So, and that is my report, unless there are any questions.
I just had one question on the intervention coach that you mentioned. Does that person also, is there sort of behavioral health level services for any of the athletes?
If there are any behavioral health needs, Brendan will refer them over to Melissa, well, the counseling department.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Moving on, Alejandro, the student assembly update.
Yep, thank you. So first, from the student assembly, I want to mention that we are collaborating with the This Is Who I Am initiative, and we're really happy to be a part of that. We something that I wanted to update everybody is that the student assembly attended the faculty academic senate meeting on Wednesday 11, and the reason why we did is not only because we are active about attending those meetings, but also because we wanted to advocate for the student representatives in that body to have voting rights, because the draft that was last created before that meeting did not give student representatives the voting rights in the executive board or their general assembly. So our students, well, we really wanted that. So similarly to when it was CA or COI, we did have those votes. So we want to keep that voice and that ability to have our voice heard through our votes and our actual voices. So through that, we had 2 motions by faculty that moved to have our votes in both the executive and the general assembly within the faculty academic senate. So hopefully those will pass, because I know at their meeting, they vote for things, but then they have an online vote to include all of the faculty. So I think that was closed on Friday, so hopefully that was accepted, and then hopefully students will be able to vote within the faculty academic senate. And then something that's been affecting student activities, which is a big part of student assembly, is a decrease in enrollment led to a decrease in the funding that we had. So it was a few $1,000s that is not allowing us to do as much programming, and more specifically club funding. So we have to be a little bit more careful with how much money we give out with funding requests with clubs and things like that. But we're trying our best, so it's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal, but we're trying our best. And then the Broome Closet is extremely beneficial for every student on campus in the community because it's open to everybody. And they're recently running very low on funding, so they're really struggling to restock their shelves. But with hopefully an increase in donations and in non-perishable food items, and also just like monetary donations, hopefully those shelves will be restocked soon. And something that we have to keep in mind, as Dr. Hawkins mentioned, is the war in Palestine is currently affecting the lives of students, and it affects them every day. Their families, what's happening to their friends, like everything that's going on takes a toll on the life of students. So that's something that we all have to keep in mind. And then the ACT-CCT conference, I'll just say I was very grateful to attend, and I learned a lot. I got to meet a lot of student trustees from all over the country, and I'm very grateful for not only the opportunity to have a student trustee in this board, but also for the voting rights that I have as a student trustee. Not every board of trustees gives the student trustee a voting privilege, so I think that it's essential for every group, and I'm very glad that our board has that. And I'm very excited on different things that I want to focus on as a trustee regarding advocacy in our government, where it's local or federal, and then within, just advocacy that I hope to do not only for students, but also for community colleges in general. And I hope to connect with policymakers and as a student to be able to promote our relationship with our legislators, something that I kind of want to take a look at. And some concerns that some students came to me about are that the discontinuation of BAP will directly affect the campus, and a lot of students are just a little bit concerned about how is that going to look regarding our class sections and our funding, because the amount of BAP students does definitely lead to more classes being available and more sections. So students just want to know how that's going to affect all of us in the short term and the long term. So hopefully we can get some answers regarding that. Yeah, that's it.
Is there a list somewhere of needs from the Broome Closet? Like the items that,
It's,
I'm sorry.
well, I know any non-perishable food item is welcome, and clothing as well, any clothes.
They're doing a fundraiser for a drive for it. One of the things I'm gonna ask for the volleyball game, excuse me, is that people bring non-perishable items. And I want to say that Dr. Nick has put in a grant. I think it's about $5,000 or $6,000 to see and to use that money. And if he is awarded that money, he'll use that to restock and replenish.
any other questions for Alejandro? All right. All right, we'll move on to the foundation report. Kathy.
Hi, everybody. My report is in the packet. I'll just highlight a few of the more pertinent things. As of August 23rd, the foundation's total investment portfolio was $41.2 million, of which $40.3 million is endowed. The foundation's total assets were $46.3 million, including the beneficial interest in perpetual trusts. Compared to fiscal year end June 30, 2023, total assets of 46.5 million. The foundation had a net surplus at the end of August of $137,150 or $512. Contributing to this was a realized gain of $1.13 million and an unrealized loss of approximately $842,000. We recently received 2 approvals for grants from Lockheed Martin. The first one is $50,000 to support the SUNY Broome engineering excellence area. And so we appreciate the cooperation that we got to put that proposal together. And then we also received $25,000 to support the micro-credentialing program for veterans on and off campus. 2 really key pieces of support that we're extremely grateful for. I wanted to let you know that the Alumni Office and the SUNY Broome Office of Veterans and Military Affairs are co-sponsoring the Twin Tier Honor Flight Departure and Return Celebration again this year. The event occurs this Saturday and Sunday, and some of us will be here to greet the veterans at 5 o'clock Saturday morning as we offer them breakfast at the student center, and then they will take off on their trip to Washington, D.C. And they will return on Sunday evening. The plan is that they will probably arrive back on campus, and they are accompanied by a motorcycle police escort, and it's just a really exciting thing. And I'm going to tell you because I went last year, and I plan to be there again this year with my family and some of my friends. Is that when the veterans come in, and this is a trip where they've gotten to go free of charge to Washington, D.C. They used to fly out of the airport, but obviously it's several $100,000 to do. So they take the buses now. But when you see what happens when the veterans disembark from the bus, they're welcomed home like they may never have been welcomed, returned from service. And they are reunited with their families. It's a beautiful thing. The neighbors come out. We would really love to see our students there Sunday evening if possible. We put the information in the bus and the swarm and everything this week. As a community, and anyone is welcome to come from the community, but it's just a really beautiful thing in a time where we don't always hear so many great things these days. So consider joining us. The latest edition of the magazine has just been mailed. You may or may not have received your copy. It's at your place. And of course, we are covering Dr. Hawkins. It's our president. It's not as big as the billboard, but it's 30,000.
Disappointed there, Kathy.
Yeah. He asked for an autograph.
And last night, I just wanted to tell you that Dr. Hawkins hosted the welcoming of 17 presidential honor scholars to SUNY Broome, and we're very excited about that. Because it's a way for us to thank our donors and announce our students to the equity. And we're pretty excited that a number of them are already involved in a lot of their community service, and it's just a great thing. Tomorrow, it's not a public event where we've invited the media, but we will be burying the lovely time capsule tomorrow morning at 10:30. Facilities has already dug a big hole and out front of Wales, and so the campus community is invited to watch as the facilities folks help drop that box into the ground. And the goal is to have our successors in 50 years from this year open that time capsule, and there's all kinds of great things. One thing I did want to share with you, this is also, there's a digital version of this. They were a little bit pricey for us to produce, but we wanted to get some so that we had the archives. This is available online. And this is a publication which we will be submitting for awards across our industry this year. So, but it is a actual booklet of everything that's in the time capsule, or almost everything. And it's done very beautifully by Aaron Merritt, who is the designer of the magazine also, and it includes all kinds of history. And it is, the library already has this uploaded into the digital archives, but it shows everything, items photographed, all different kinds of things that were donated, special pieces of history. You know, there's like jackets, there's all kinds of trinkets in there, just everything. And then we of course have just different points of our history. And of course, we have on the very last page Dr. Hawkins is our 8th president. We were able to get this in the print version and have it done. So this is just something, well, it's in here, so you can see the.
Nice.
And so this is something we'll send out to you to all have, and it also shows all the 75th anniversary headshots, everything we did for the past year and a half, and tomorrow it's going in the ground. That concludes my report.
Nice, thank you, Kathy, very nice.
Kathy,
That's really
what
nice.
time will the veterans be returning at?
So they were asking the community to be here about 5:50. They stop and pick up the escort, the motorcycle and police escorts. I don't know if it's at the Welcome Center coming into New York State, and it's a huge big deal. Now they can be delayed, and the only way we can notify is by looking at the Twin Tier Honors Flight Facebook page. But if you're here by 6 o'clock, you can be getting a front row seat or stand up by the student center to see as they come in, and it's just a really exciting thing. So if you're here by 6 o'clock, you'll be safe. So, and it would be great to have as many of the campus community to welcome them. I promise there won't be dry eye.
They come in right by the bus stop, right?
Yes, they actually pull right in the bus stop. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Kathy. All right, Dave Wadikis, facilities update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is in your packet. At the highlights, our main rebuilt electrical transformer was to be installed successfully on October 9th. Both Matco and facilities worked to get that done. Took about 5 hours, so it went very smoothly. The old science student services restrooms project continues to move forward. It says 80% of the work is done in student services, and actually this report's about a week old. We're beyond that. In fact, our intent is to reopen the restrooms in the student services building next Thursday, which is in advance of the November 1st scheduled completion date. And then old science will follow hopefully the week after that. What's become somewhat problematic is the engineering firm that does our code inspections and issues our building permits. The person who was assigned to our projects has left the firm. So we've got kind of a backlog of projects with them. I've already met with Gene Holbert, who oversees these efforts, and we've been pushing as hard as we can to get these permits and inspections completed, and so far so good. But ultimately it may have a slight impact on some of the project schedules. The BC Center has already been mentioned a number of times. We've done a number of minor repairs over there and intend on replacing the 4 external classroom doors. The design work for the Decker nursing renovation project is continuing to move ahead. We expect 90% plans by the end of this week. We'll review those plans in concert with academics and others. And at the same time, our construction manager will be putting dollar amounts on the various elements or areas of that project. We have a number of construction contracts that have been approved, in particular the photography lab work. But as I noted earlier, we're still waiting for building permit issuance for a number of the projects, and that's being held up somewhat by the lack of the engineering support that I mentioned. We received our first shipment of internal locks, the locks that will be easily lockable. And we had a number of our staff attend a training session with IK Systems and Public Safety. And the installation of these locks has already started in concert with Public Safety. We're taking their recommendations as the as to where we should start the work from a strategic standpoint and a student use standpoint. So that work is ongoing. We've contracted with Holt Architects to do a mini master plan study of a few of the buildings that we have to try to ultimately recommend a location for a preferred location for a one-stop shop. You can see the list of the other projects that we have ongoing, and most of those, there's an oversight committee that's been established, and we've already met on the STEM electric vehicle garage, the little theater electrical lighting upgrade, campus-wide signing upgrades, and the two that we have not met on yet are the academic and athletic space evaluation of the student center, and then the lecture hall upgrade in the AT building. But all of those are moving forward as well. And then lastly, and I thought Carol would have mentioned it, but the fitness court ribbon cutting and dedication was held on October 3rd, and that was well attended. And believe it or not, I've seen people out there in the off hours using that, and I come up on the weekends and at night. So with that, I would be more than happy to answer any questions with it.
Questions for Dave? Thank you very much, Dave.
Well,
All right, Michael Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So two items primarily in your packet is the budget forecast for the current fiscal year, which we're about 6 weeks into. I'd like to just focus on the first page of the budget forecast. The first column of numbers is really our better estimate for how last year's results are. We're still a couple of weeks before we file, the college files its annual report to SUNY, but most of the heavy lifting is done with last year. And I just want to focus on row 19, which is the HERF funding. We have about 2.4 million after last year. If you go to row 16, initially we had been forecasting about 3.8 million to be used to balance the budget. You can see based on all the accruals, and most particularly the board earlier approved the write-offs and bad debt. So this is 2 years ago. During COVID, SUNY did not allow any of its colleges to collect outstanding payments. So there was about a year and a half where we couldn't collect anything. So the write-offs was a higher amount from 2 years ago. We'll claw back and get all that in subsequent years, but it was a hit of about almost 300,000. So of this 500 grand, 300 is really a revenue hit. Again, we'll get all that back via the collection agencies and our own staff, but for that period, it was a material change. So at this point, we're predicting about a 4.3 million for last year to get the budget balanced. That $500,000 was projected to be used not in the current year, but for next year, 24-25. So we're not going to have that $500,000. So that'll just be a further challenge in preparing next year's budget, but that's a little bit of ways, but we do still have 2.4 million, which is what is budgeted in the current year. So if you look again at row 16, the second column of numbers, that's our current adopted budget. And as you see, we have budgeted a little under 2.4 million. That's the balance that's left in her funding. We still have about 5.8 million in if you look at row 20, that's outside of HERF. That's the college's unrestricted fund balance. So that's a reasonably healthy, almost 11%. So let's look at the current year. As Trustee Gonzalez mentioned, his constituency is certainly concerned about the BAP no longer continuing, I'm even more concerned because that's a significant revenue loss to the college in the current year because it won't continue in the spring. That's about a $1 million impact to the college between student tuition and student fees. So if you look at that on an annualized basis for fiscal year 24-25, that's going to be a $2 million hit. So, but in the current year, that's 1 million because it only affects the spring semester. In addition, notwithstanding that we're slightly ahead of last year for fall enrollment, at about 1 to 1.5%, as Dr. Hawkins mentioned, most of that increase is due to concurrent enrollment. Fast forward, the campus enrollment ended up basically flat. In the budget, we assumed a 2.5% increase. So that 2.5% translates into a $600,000 revenue loss. So between the campus enrollment fall, which we're just extrapolating, typically what happens in the fall happens in the spring. So based on about a 2.5% campus enrollment less than budgeted, that was 600,000. The BAP spring discontinuation is $1 million. So that's $1.6 million. So when you take a look at row 8, the second to the last column, you'll see that the college is projecting a revenue reduction of 1.6 million. So what's the college doing about that? Well, when you take a look at the expense side, there have been primarily 3 major initiatives that have taken place so far, probably 4. So in the personnel area, we've reduced part-time non-instruction by about 10%, just taking it right out of the budget. In the contractual row that you see there, which is about 10 million in the budget, we've reduced that. We've just taken 5%. So that equals about 600,000 to 700,000. The 2 other initiatives for full-time on the non-instructional side, as turnover occurs during the year, we're really, we've implemented a hiring freeze, and we're going to position by position need to evaluate what positions we can either restructure, reorganize, all the usual things that any organization has to do when its revenues are less than expense. So that's in place. And in addition, the spring schedule is due to be published, I think, within the next couple of weeks. So on the instructional side, light of the fact that there will be significantly less full-time BAPN students in the spring, certainly the schedule that will get published will need to be modified based on, especially where BAP students, what courses they were predominantly attending to. So the college has in finance and budgets projection right now, we're projecting a balanced budget. We're projecting $1.6 million of revenue loss, and we're projecting, based on executing a plan, a budget stabilization plan that will take out about $1.6 million on the expense side. So that's current status of the budget. In addition, second major item, we did have a 2-hour conference call yesterday with Moody's Investor Service on the Housing Corp refinancing. Just a quick, the Housing Corp initially issued debt at about 20 million, did a bank financing for a 10-year term. So the Housing Corp has to do something related to extending that financing. So the Housing Corp retained a fiscal advisor, underwriter, and determination was that we were gonna pursue a rating from Moody's. For now, it's a private rating. The difference between a private rating and a public rating is just a private rating. The college, Housing Corp, can elect whether they want to publicly announce what their rating is. If the rating isn't favorable, then it's private and it never gets public. The idea of getting a public rating is it's just like grades in school. The higher your rating, the better interest rate you're going to get from investors. So A is really top of the line. Basically what you hear is either investment grade, or you'll hear the other extreme, junk bonds, right? So B is really what the College and Housing Corp is pursuing. It's called investment grade. It gives you a lot more opportunities. You can ensure the financing, whole host of other things. So so we've been providing Moody's for the last couple of months, about 5 inches worth of paperwork, a whole bunch of documents that kind of culminated in a call, a 2-hour call yesterday. We have to provide some additional supplemental information, but timeline is for Moody's to evaluate all that, go to their credit committee and make a determination as to what the rating will be sometime in the November timeframe. So gonna keep our fingers crossed. I think we have probably at least a 50-50 shot. I just want to recognize Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Ross Scott and finance team that was involved with it. It's a pretty extensive, comprehensive effort, and we'll make it one way or another. It's the matter of what kind of interest rate we're going to get.
What's the outstanding balance?
Probably in the $16 million range. So we're looking at really converting it. I mean, it's a very complicated bank note. It's got it's just it's variable debt. It's variable debt, and it's so we're really looking at trying to convert to a 30-year bond. And
What did it start at? Was it 20?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
18.2.
It's like and it's got a swap in it.
Oh, does it?
It's, so in any event, we're just trying to convert it long term and call it a day. And
Get it over with. Yep.
so that concludes my report. I'd be more than willing to answer any questions anybody has.
Just in round numbers, Michael, the 1.6 is what, 300 students? If we take something around.
Well, I think BAP was about 225. So they're all full time. I did a credit hour credit conversion. So to take just even take five grants. It's probably about 7,000 per student for the year with fees and tuition. Fortunately, our state aid is at the floor, so we don't lose any state aid. So the primary loss is just tuition and student fees.
Any other questions, Michael? All right, Jesse's, bring us home.
And report.
Very much. All right, we do have requests for an executive session, so I would ask that we adjourn the regular meeting. Motion, if we have a second. Second. Connie, who's the first?
And that's
Yeah.
Right.
Right.